Hello, and welcome to the very first official episode of Jenny from the Republic. This is going to be a fun thing for me, and I don't really have any expectations. I just feel like yapping, and it's going to be a good time. So, whether you are interested or not, you are going to be in for a little treat with each episode because I have things to say, I guess. So, my name is Jenny. I go by Jenny. Let's just say Jenny. We'll stick with Jenny. If you know me, you know me. If you don't, you don't. If you don't know me, then you just know me as Jenny. Um, I am a Navy veteran. I just got out. My discharge date was actually in November. Honorably discharged, period. It's not that hard. Sorry, throwing shade already. Um, I moved back to Indiana. That's where I'm from. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. I am currently a government employee in Indiana, and I'm looking to go to grad school next year for public administration. So I'm really excited for that endeavor. And I didn't really know like what to talk about for the first episode. I feel like talking about my Navy experience is going to be the most raw and vulnerable way for you guys to get to know me. So let's break it down here. I enlisted in 2020. Um, I actually was a senior in college and I got talking with a recruiter about loan forgiveness. And I come from a little bit of a military family. There's no females in my family who have ever joined, so that's kind of crazy to me. But I do have lots of men in my family that were in the military. And I was really appealed by the loan forgiveness aspect, just because that's, whatever, 4 years of, free school, I guess, without using any kind of GI Bill or whatever. So I thought that would be a good way for me to get my loans forgiven and move to a different place in the country or the world, get some experience. And to be honest, my dream job has always been to run for office. So if I am a veteran, I feel like that's going to qualify me a little bit more for serving my country on a legislative or executive level. So that was kind of my point of view. I could have commissioned, but that would have been a longer commitment. And I kind of wish I would have because I think I would have had a different experience compared to being enlisted. But everything works out exactly how it's supposed to be. Yes, I would have made more money, but that's not really what I'm driven by. I think I just wanted to do my 4 years, get that veteran status, and then come or go wherever in the civilian world and continue to follow my dreams into the government sector. So I tested pretty high on the ASFAB and actually ended up landing a CTR job. So, if you don't know what CTRs are, it's cryptologic technician collection. And I didn't really know a lot about this job. Nobody in the Navy does unless you are a CTR. And I'm not going to talk much about what I physically did because that is, I can't. So, I ended up getting that job, and when I finally contracted for that, I had 3 weeks before my ship out date. So I basically had to get my stuff together in 3 weeks and leave, and it was right before Thanksgiving that I left, and it was during COVID. So in the Navy, they were shipping everybody to a Army Reserve base called Fort McCoy in Wisconsin and making us quarantine there. And um, it literally felt like a fever dream. That place was so like bland and boring, and like the structure was so off with leadership because we weren't actually at basic yet. Like we were quarantining, and it was a nightmare and a mess. And I was thrown under so much stress as soon as I got there. And I just remember like being on the bus on the way there crying because I was like, what the heck did I just get myself into? And I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't think it was going to be like, I thought I was like going to be so excited and ready to just be tough, but I learned right off the bat that I was about to be broken completely down as who I am and built back up into something that is something I never even dreamed of or imagined. So that was like traumatizing. First of all, I'm going to say that word a lot probably, um, because I ended up having to quarantine for 4 weeks instead of the 2 because a few girls that slept next to me tested positive for COVID, and I never had COVID. I've never ever had it. I've been tested for it plenty of times. I've never had it, but since the girl next to me had it, I had to recycle my entire quarantine. So I was at this base that was like a jail. It literally felt like jail for 4 weeks instead of the 2. So, and basic is supposed to be only 8 weeks at Great Lakes for the Navy, at least during my time, and it ended up being 12. So that is a really long time. And obviously, like the Navy, they don't give you your phones on the weekends. They don't, like, you don't get to bring a bunch of personal items. Like, they're strict, very strict. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, wasn't allowed to do anything. I had 30 seconds to shower every single day, which is extremely unhygienic. Um, but I mean, they say you're supposed to wash your hands for like at least 30 seconds every time you go to the bathroom. So think about washing your entire body every day for only that long. Not good. But whatever. It was just to give us a sense of hurry. I don't really know. But yeah, so after those 4 weeks, I finally got to boot camp at Great Lakes in Chicago, Illinois, which is only 3 hours from where my family is at. That's only 3 hours from where I shipped out from. And I got through basic pretty easy. I graduated in the top of my training division. I got like the honor recruit ribbon, which is super dorky, but I thought it was kind of cool. But I was always on edge, and that is really when my anxiety started developing because I was so scared of the girls next to me complaining about COVID. And I'm not saying that from a selfish point of view. I'm saying that because a lot of girls would do that so that they didn't have to take the PT test. Like they would complain about having COVID symptoms so that they could be set back 2 more weeks so they would have more time to exercise and run before the PT test, which is extremely selfish of them. And whether they tested positive or not, if they had symptoms, they did something called a ring of fire where the 4 girls that slept next to you on the left and the 4 girls that slept to you next to you on the right all got reset. So, yeah, that's really messed up. But I learned that living in a compound with 100 other girls, you're not going to get along, and everybody's going to be built very differently. Um, but Anyway, yeah, I got through basic, and then I was shipped to my A school, which is it's called tech school. For other branches, AIT, for the Army, I think. But it was in Pensacola, Florida, which is awesome. I love Pensacola. I would live there for real. Like, I could see myself residing there someday, maybe as a vacation. But I found out really quick how flipping hard my school was. The CTR school is one of the hardest academic schools the Navy has to offer. And the reason why it's so hard is because the material that they give you is top secret or mimics top secret. So you don't really know that this kind of stuff even exists because it doesn't in the real world. I mean, there are certain things that I was kind of familiar with, like radio frequency stuff, like that's unclassified, but just certain concepts of things that I could not comprehend. And on top of that, you couldn't take any material home. You couldn't take any, flashcards. If you did any kind of studying, it had to be after school hours. And our school was only 6 to noon every day, which is awesome for like 4 months. That's not that bad. That's a great schedule. But just knowing that there's nothing else I could do after those hours were over was relieving, but also super scary because, like, if you fail a few tests, like, they reset you. And then if you fail again, like, you're kicked out. You have to find a different rate. And our rate was super cush. Like, if you were on shore duty for the most part, like, you worked in an office. And that's really where my mind was set at. Like, I really hope that I can just succeed and get this office job. Um, well, I failed one of my tests, and it was like the midterm. That's what it would be comparable to. So it was like the middle of the class session, and I failed pretty miserably. And I don't know why. I think I was just really nervous, but I retook it and ended up doing a lot better. But it scared the crap out of me because that test was worth like so many more points than the rest of the tests or quizzes. Um, and this is also the time period that I got engaged. So my husband flew down and proposed. We hadn't seen each other since November, and then he proposed in March. So I hadn't seen him. And I was having so much anxiety about COVID and being scared that the base was going to get closed down and that I wasn't going to be allowed to leave or go anywhere, or like I would just be trapped on this base, which would be miserable because the base itself is like kind of crappy, but the town of Pensacola is awesome. And I'm very thankful that that never happened. But so we got engaged, and I just instantly felt this sense of like, I don't know, like it was just so heavy to be in a long distance relationship with my fiance. And I just don't understand like what happened because obviously I missed him at boot camp a lot, and I was like so good. And then when I saw him, like my whole world flipped back upside down because like I just remembered like who I was before the Navy. And that's a good thing because the Navy or basic is really supposed to break you down and like take away like your old habits and give you this new perspective of being a sailor, like being in the military. Um so yeah, ended up doing okay in my class. I got a 90 some percent, which is good. But if you get like in the 80s, they consider resetting you. So super scary. Um, but I was having a lot of anxiety about where I was going to be stationed. And looking back, I don't know why I worried so much because absolutely everything worked out the exact way I wanted it to. And I wish it wouldn't have. I wish it would have worked out in a different way that I didn't expect, because sometimes when you get what you want, it's not what you need. And so I got to choose my orders because I did well in my class, and that was just what the detailer had available. It was very open. So they asked me sea duty or shore duty, and I said shore, shore duty, which means I wouldn't be attached to a ship. I'd be on a land base, which is normally part of a joint base. Um, so they gave me a big list of options, and I said Hawaii, Georgia, or I said Texas, Georgia, Hawaii. Those were my top three. And sure enough, I got Texas, I got San Antonio, and I thought that was going to be like the dopest place to live. Like, it's warm, it's like big city vibes, but like there's got to be so much to do. It's diverse, like it's still stateside. Like, I have a bunch of family in Georgia, so I wanted to be somewhere else for once. And I hated San Antonio. My husband and I hated San Antonio. It was so hot. It was so overwhelming. Being a minority like us, like, is really hard. And that sounds like messed up for me to say, but like, I've never experienced like actually being a minority, and it is very overwhelming. I would go on jogs down the street and I'd have people yelling at me, calling me gringa and whatever. Food was really good, but we ended up spending about 3 years in San Antonio, and the office that I was attached to was extremely high priority, extremely high, um, just, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it was so stressful, it was so demanding, and I genuinely like am not the same person because of the work that I did when I was in that office. Now, I don't mean like I was not in combat. Like, I never boots on the ground. I was never shooting people, you know what I mean? Like, nothing physically traumatizing, but the mental strain and um things that we were asked of every day and the things that we saw through our computers, traumatizing. Traumatizing. Yes, it was a good paycheck, I will say. I made good money being in the Navy. I made E5 in like 2 years because my job is like just ranks up so fast. But I'm not really going to go into detail on what the job was. I'm just going to say that we are not in a peacetime era. Like, according to the VA, like when I filed for disability, I am in wartime status because of everything that was going on in the world, like countries invading each other and bombing each other, and yeah, just super traumatizing. And I worked like 12-hour night shifts, and just not having any family or friends around, and it being 120 degrees outside. Yeah, very tough. And on top of that, my family never came to visit me. My sister did for a long weekend, which was really nice. And then my dad came for one night because he had a work trip in Waco. But nope, my mom never came. My in-laws came a handful of times, which is really nice, but it like almost rubbed it in my face a little bit more that my own family didn't care. And I have a big family, so you would think like somebody would want to come. But I ended up getting a skill bridge, which is a really great program if anybody in the military is trying to get out, that is a really good way to get to leave your unit early so that you can work and still get paid until the end of your contract. So that's basically what I did, and I got to come home early and I bought a house here in Indiana. My husband and I have been renovating. I'm sitting in my George Washington themed spare bedroom right now. It's pretty awesome. I've got like the Declaration of Independence framed and like a picture of Benjamin Franklin and all that good stuff. But um, I absolutely lost my marbles when I moved home, and as as much as I am glad and thankful and happy and excited to not be in the military anymore and to not be in Texas anymore, I did not know what the transition was going to be like. And I literally had a mental breakdown like a week or two after we lived here because I just went from this insane stressful environment to like no stress at all. And I finally had time to reflect on like the things that I went through. And I think I never fully processed like how stressful my job in the Navy was. And I just like couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do with myself. I still don't know what to do with myself. Sometimes when I really think about it, I actually get super emotional because I just have these like levels of guilt for some reason. And like I think it started when I went garage sailing with one of my girlfriends, and we were driving through this tiny little Indiana town, and they have these little banners on their light posts of pictures of veterans. And I jokingly was like, "Oh, haha, I wonder how I could get one of those." And she was like, "Well, maybe it's for people who actually like went somewhere and like deployed and were actually like going places in the military." And that like broke me in half because it made me realize that I never was on a ship and I never deployed and I had it good, which I did for real, but my like mental and emotional capacity is severed because of what I went through, and I can't even explain to somebody what I went through because they will never experience it unless they go join the Navy and do my job, which they're not going to. You know, they're not going to. So that kind of made me upset, but then it really just triggered me into feeling like some sort of survivor's guilt, not saying like I wanted to die or wish I was in dangerous situations, but like I didn't do enough. And I did my 4 years. You know, I served my contract honorably and I have plenty of ribbons. I've got a joint medal, you know, lots of stuff. But I just like have such a hard time grasping the fact that I was in the Navy for 4 years. And I've had people tell me, "Oh, sorry, I forgot that you guys were home. Like, I keep thinking you're still in Texas, and that's why I haven't invited you out, or that's why I haven't done this or that." So that also sucks, but I've just really learned to only rely on myself and my immediate family, like my husband and my silly dog, because they're really going to be the only people that know exactly who I am and what I went through. Um, and not only from like the work perspective, but like my leadership was so jacked up. Like, talk about favoritism and being in a work environment that's predominantly male. It's just all around like very messed up. Thankfully, I never had any sexual assault problems, but I knew plenty of other people that went through things of that nature, which is just so messed up. And there's a lot of people that had some sort of God complex because they were higher ranked, which totally understand. You can ask to be respected, and you will be respected if you're not rude about it. And when you're in the military, you don't have a choice but to just respect your superiors, even when you know they're doing shady things and you know they're talking inappropriately to other people. And then, yeah, let's see. Fast forward. So, getting a little sidetracked. Fast forward to Veterans Day. So, I was home for Veterans Day, even though I was not technically discharged yet. My discharge date was at the end of November. And it was like the worst day of my life. And I genuinely don't understand why I struggled so bad, but I had kind of gotten over this hump of like, okay, like I'm home, like we're good. And then I went to some Veterans Day stuff because of my office that I work at now. And we went to the school program. And I sobbed the entire time because they were honoring veterans and they let me sit in the front with my boss who's a Marine and my other boss who's a ex-army, and they like had these people like shaking our hands saying thank you for your service, and there was like three older men that skipped me and did not shake my hand or say thank you for your service. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't sit up here with the rest of the veterans if I wasn't a veteran. Like, could you imagine how rude that would be? So that was my first red flag. And then the second red flag was just like how freaking emotional I got. And like, there's a bunch of really old dudes there from like Vietnam. Like, I don't think there was any World War II veterans, but then they showed like this slideshow of combat from very pivotal American history incidences and events, and I just remember feeling like, wow, like I'm a piece of crap. Like I only did 4 years and I sat behind a computer, even though that's not like all of it. Like it's not like I just had an office job and it was fun and I, got to go to holiday parties and just work a 9 to 5 and take my leave whenever I wanted and lunch breaks. No, absolutely not. It was extremely, extremely high priority work we were doing, and the Navy would not spin if we didn't have what my job did. So I have like some sort of weird imposter syndrome. But yeah, I probably won't be going to any more veteran stuff for a couple more years because I've realized that my mental capacity cannot handle that or accept that, or at least until I start going to therapy. So that's kind of the goal. Um, but yeah, I do not regret joining. I would never talk anybody out of enlisting because I'm reaping a lot of benefits from being a veteran now, and including using my GI Bill for grad school whenever that is upon me, hopefully here in the next couple months. Disability and just like I've like healthcare discounts, all sorts of things, VA loans. I didn't have to put a down payment on my house that I live in now. But yeah, I just am incredibly thankful for what I put myself through, and I'm like incredibly grateful for the military, even though it was super hard. And no, I would not reenlist, and I do not think and I would ever like join again, because being just me instead of my rank is very relieving, And I feel like my husband and I are super strong now because we were forced to grow up when we moved to Texas all by ourselves. And yeah, I think it's a great experience for someone who has, no idea what they're going to do with their lives. If you're young and you don't really know what to do, the military is going to set you up and you'll probably get some sort of bonus. And yeah, so that's my military experience. I feel like I just kind of went on and on, but also I think I explained it all and I did it all without crying, which is really nice. I had somebody ask me yesterday like how like what my military experience was like, and I literally like had like I was choked up because I like don't know what to say. So I told her it was traumatic, and then I smiled because I had just met this woman too, and they're intrigued. They're like, "Oh wow, like you were in the military? Like what? Like you don't look like a veteran. Like why would you do that and this and that and blah blah blah." So yeah, but I think that I just really lacked the support while I was in for like mental health services. And don't get me wrong, like I tried my best. I went to my doctor and I talked about all my problems, and I just like really just wanted therapy, and I got a therapist and it was awful. So I think if I would have gotten just a little bit more help, maybe I would have a better outlook on my life. But yeah. Well, anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to me babble about the military. I think my next episode is going to be like, I don't know. I'm kind of toying with the idea of talking about Lana Del Rey being a Republican, or like republicanism and or politics and skateboarding, and also the Menendez brothers because I'm obsessed with the Menendez brothers. I love them. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. I hope this was fun for you. Um yeah, I went through all of that just so you guys could listen. So, thanks. Bye.